My name is Alex with Signature Sales and Management, Property Management for Corona and Lee Inland Empire, 951rents.com. Today we're going to discuss how to increase your cash flow by increasing the rent, or how to increase the rent so that your tenants don't bail on you. So that's kind of an important thing for a lot of landlords, and let's discuss some points. So first of all, know the law. Know legally what you have to do to increase rent. Check with an attorney and or the laws in your jurisdiction on how to properly execute a increase of rent. So that's number one always, is know legally what you have to do. Number two is check the current market rates and comps. So if you know what the other rents are going for, you know what the comps are, and you have an understanding of what your marketplace is, obviously when you go to rent or increase the rent to the tenant's probably going to go online and start looking at other properties. It's natural, right? When they go to look at the other properties, they're going to see that the rent is comparable. It's pretty much the same, and oh, you know what, maybe we're better off staying here. It's a pain to move, it costs money. If you have kids, there could be a possible change in school, you have application fees. It's not always the best thing for a tenant to do to move. So if you check the comps and you're fair about it, it will keep the tenant put, and it'll be a happy outcome for everybody. So always check the current market rates and comps. Number three is to send notice. Send written notice, more importantly, right? So if the rent is going to increase under 10%, in the state of California, you have to provide 30 days notice. If it's over 10%, you have to provide 60 days notice. So one thing you might want to look into is actually calling the tenant and giving them a nice friendly call, telling them you're looking at increasing the rent here in the next 60 days or 30 days depending. But even if you have that great conversation, always send written notice. It is a legal requirement for that written notice. It's just a professional courtesy, and to maybe feel things out, what the tenant might want to do by making that phone call. So always provide written notice. Number four is making some improvements. So sometimes the tenant has certain things they really kind of want done. Maybe it's paint, maybe it's some new doorknobs, maybe it's drain plugs that have been neglected for some of the sinks. You know, there's little things. If you make these small improvements and maybe get a wish list from the tenant and you fix them, then they're more apt to say, okay, this is fair, the increase is fair. New flooring, anything that you can do to improve the lifestyle and or the habitat, so to speak, for the tenant, it's much easier for them to swallow a rent increase. So look at making some improvements. Number five, increase the rent as turnover happens. So that's probably the case for most landlords. As soon as a tenant leaves for whatever reason, they just increase the rent for the next tenant. And that's real simple. That's number five. Number six, raise the rent every year. So a lot of the times issues happen with raising the rent because of a lack of consistency. If you consistently raise the rent year over year, then your tenants expect it, right? So if you've checked the comps in the area and you're raising the rent consistently based on comps, then you're probably going to be really safe here. So one thing to do is to also let the tenant know verbally, and then provide that written notice and just increase it on a consistent basis. Number seven, don't ever hit the tenant with a huge rate hike. You know, this isn't a greed game here that you're trying to get as much cash out of someone as possible. It's just not the right thing. Most tenants don't have a budget, and or they have a budget, and anything over 10% might hit them in the belt a little too hard, causing them to bail on you or have some backlash towards the rent increase. If you want to get rid of the tenant, that's a whole other story, but I would advise under 10% or under, and be fair. So another number eight, I would say, is offer to reduce the rent increase if they sign a longer term. So let's say you're going to do a 10% increase over 1 year term, and you say, hey, listen, if you sign a 2-year lease with me, let's make it 6 or 7% or something fair, arbitrary number I just threw out there. But offer to reduce that rent increase if they sign a long term. The longer a client is with you, the better the cash flow, the better for literally everybody, right? You have a good tenant. So let's look at the points again. Know the law, know the current market and comps, send written notice based on everything. the laws in your jurisdiction. Make some improvements to make it easier. Increase the rent as the tenants leave, right turnover. Raise the rent every year on a consistent basis. Don't hit tenants with a big increase, and offer to reduce the rent if they sign a longer term lease. So these are ways to increase the rent. I hope you learned a lot today. You can find us at 951rents.com. My name is Alex with Signature Sales and Management. Have a good day.